Dear Bethesda, hi, it's me. You know me. I'm Austin, the guy who deconstructs your universe with the feverish devotion of a religious zealot. So, what have we got on the agenda this week? Let's see, super mutant schools, where does everybody poop? Look, a question from Gaijin Goomba, the guy who makes Culture Shock and Game Exchange. He wants to know about the apparent absurdity of your mini nukes. Specifically, he wants to know about their radiation, but, well, this isn't a show where we look at just one little thing. Hell no, this, friends, is fucking science! And in science, we tear everything down to the smallest part, eat it, poop it out, throw it into a video editor, and kablam! We get an episode. Where was I? Oh, right. So, Bethesda. This week, we're gonna look at your mini nukes really closely. Will they survive the inquiry? Let's find out! Mini nukes are awesome. Introduced when Bethesda took over the helm of the Fallout franchise in Fallout 3, they're football-sized, small-scale, anti-personnel nuclear weapons that, instead of utilizing a chemically induced explosion like your boring, ordinary frag grenade, unleashes the awe-inspiring power of the building blocks of the universe by inducing nuclear fission in the form of tiny yet terrifyingly effective nuclear explosions. But are these micronuclear weapons even possible? The answer may surprise you. First, let's get something out of the way, something that will bug me for the entire video if I don't mention it immediately. The mushroom clouds, they're bullshit. Mushroom clouds are caused by all kinds of explosions, not all of them nuclear. In fact, incredibly vivacious volcanic explosions can create them. The physics behind them are incredibly complex and interesting. When a sufficiently large explosion goes off, hot air rises. As it rises, a Rayleigh-Taylor instability is formed, and the hot cloud of gas and debris pulls up more air into it. The air rising up into the cloud causes it to rotate, which gives it the distinct mushroom shape. Now, these fluid dynamics exist in even very tiny explosions, but only in catastrophically large ones are the forces, volumes, and temperatures high enough for long enough for them to be observable. So, no, the mushroom cloud, sadly, is just for effect, albeit a fucking awesome one. But whatever, who cares? That's just visual effects. I didn't rage on the blindingly hot plasma of plasma weapons being a tame green color, nor did I give laser rifles grief for being red and visible. No! Here at Shoddycast, we don't sweat the petty stuff. We just nitpick the things that matter, like game mechanics. So, how does a mini nuke work? Well, first we have to go over some of the basics of nuclear engineering. Don't worry, just the basics. As you may recall from ages ago when I covered nuclear fission is essentially atoms falling apart. The reasons are multifaceted, but generally speaking, the atoms are unstable because the particles making them up aren't capable of keeping themselves together, so they fly off into the ether. It's not just elements like uranium and plutonium that are radioactive. Almost every element on the periodic table has isotopes that are unstable. The beauty of uranium and plutonium is, compared to these other elements, they're way more abundant and really easy to manipulate and predict. Whenever these atoms fall apart, they release energy, which can be harnessed in a few ways. In the case of nuclear power plants, it's used to heat up water, turning it into kinetic energy that spins turbines. In the case of a nuclear bomb, though, all this energy is released almost immediately. But how the hell does this actually work? Simple. Criticality. Criticality is when a piece of fissible radioactive material is under the proper conditions to self-sustain fission reactions. That is, there's enough atoms of the stuff in the right place, the right time, and under the right circumstances that when the atoms split, their neutrons are more likely to hit other atoms, which triggers them to split, which triggers others to split, and so on and so forth. This is also sometimes called critical mass. For the most part, this chain reaction doesn't happen in masses of radioactive isotopes that are below critical mass or subcritical. With nuclear reactors and power plants, the mass of materials is kept under very carefully controlled and constantly monitored conditions so that the reaction maintains a slow yet steady pace. This is done with a combination of neutron emitters, neutron reflectors, and a whole bunch of other shit. Nuclear bombs are a lot more fun. They all work in different ways. One of the fun ones is the bullet style, where there's a bomb and on one end there's a hunk of uranium in the shape of a hollow cylinder, and on the other is a piece of uranium that's the exact size of the hollowed out hole in the piece on the other end. When it's time to detonate, a blast cap fires, launching the two pieces together, and when they connect, fucking boom! Shit is real fucking bad for anybody nearby. All the atoms start to split and go everywhere and release a literal assload of energy in fractions of a second. Supercriticality has been the source of a few terrible accidents throughout history, perhaps none so infamous as the Demon Core, which, as a friend of mine pointed out to me, would be an amazing metal band name. The Demon Core was a hunk of plutonium that was just barely subcritical, meaning it was harmless. Well, mostly. It was still radioactive, but it wasn't gonna explode. That being said, it was only 5% away from its critical mass, meaning that it wouldn't take too much extra mass to send it critical. On August 21st, 1945, physicist Harry Dagelan accidentally dropped a tungsten brick onto the sphere, which was acting as a neutron reflector. Although he quickly reached to remove the brick, there's no human reflexes faster than the speed of light. Both he and a nearby security guard received a huge dose of radiation. Dagelan, who was closest, died 25 days later. The security officer, who was further away, died of leukemia at age 62. But you don't earn a name like the Demon Core for killing 2 measly people and taking over 30 years to kill one of them. Nope. 1 year later, on May 21st, 1946, physicist Louis Slotin was showing off to a new arrival at their facility by holding beryllium reflectors near the core with his hands, keeping them separated only with the flat edge of a screwdriver. Well, you see where this is going. Doctor, I have a doctorate in particle physics, but apparently want to die. Slotin's hand slipped and the reflector fell over the core, causing it to go critical. He received a whopping 1,000 rad dose of neutrons directly into his torso and bit the dust 9 days later. Demon Core. Should have called it Don't Be a Dumbass with Near Critical Plutonium Core. Although that is a lot less metal. Anyway, this perfectly illustrates one of the most important things we need to be aware of for our mini nukes moving forward. You see, folk have heard of critical mass before, and they tend to think of it as the amount of radioactive stuff you definitely need to cause a chain reaction, but that's only about half of it. Sure, there are lists on Wikipedia showing the critical masses of uranium, plutonium, and blah blah blah, but these are how much you need if they're a certain shape, under normal room temperature, 1 atmosphere of pressure, and typical crystalline density with no reflectors or moderators. But there isn't some sort of magical mass under which nuclear fission can only happen. Although, somewhat ironically, it's way less challenging from an engineering perspective to make a huge bomb versus a small bomb. There's also a depressing void of information about some of this shit on the internet, probably to keep people from building backyard nukes. Ah well. In either case, most of you have probably heard of the Davy Crockett weapon, the IRL slingshot nuke developed by the United States during the Cold War to use against Russian ground troops. It was never actually used, disappointingly, but tests were run and they were able to get explosions that were well under a kiloton in strength. Of course, just shy of a kiloton is still powerful enough to wipe out an entire city block and is way more powerful than a mini nuke. Well, shit. Actually, this brings up a great point. How powerful are mini nukes? This was actually a bit more challenging to figure out than I thought it would be. My preferred method is to compare something to a real thing, but mini nukes aren't even remotely real. I thought maybe I can compare the blast radius with a hand grenade and things got messy. But then I remembered the fucking creation kit. The creation kit has hard, solid numbers for different weapons. Comparing the mini nuke's numbers to a frag grenade, an object that exists in real life, I can get a pretty accurate power ratio. And I did! Taking damage and the radius of the blast into account, I created an aggregate number that perfectly landed at 200%. That is to say, a mini nuke is twice as powerful as a hand grenade. This may not seem like much, but you have to realize that frag grenades are way more dangerous in real life than they are in movies and video games. Instead of just being effective a few feet around the grenade, they can be fatal for over 100 feet away, which makes sense because they pack a wallop. 800 kilojoules of explosive force, which means our mini nuke unleashes a painful 1.6 megajoules of energy. So, how do we get something that small to hold a nuclear load? All these radioactive elements have critical masses in the range of 50 kilograms or a little less. Way too heavy for you to launch from your shoulder, even on a good day. Wait a minute, californium, yes! Californium-252 has a critical mass at normal atmospheric temperatures, pressures, and densities of only 2.7 kilograms. That's almost 6 pounds. You'd definitely feel that launching from your shoulder, but you could do it. So what, we just slap 2.7 kilograms of Californium-252 into a football and chuck it? Well, I'd hold off on that if I were you. Using Einstein's magical formula, which I've been dying to use on this show for ages, E equals MC squared, that means 2.7 kilograms of supercritical californium-252 would have the explosive force of the largest goddamn bomb ever detonated on our planet, the Tsar Bomba. And even if it weren't 100% efficient, it would still flatten an entire city. Another problem is that californium is really difficult to synthesize, and as a result is really fucking expensive. I'm talking like 27 goddamn million dollars a fucking gram expensive, which means a 2.7 kilogram warhead would cost over $73 billion to manufacture. Actually, probably more so. That's just the cost of the californium. And in Fallout's economy in 2077, it'd cost $36 trillion. Fucking inflation. Thanks, Obama. Also, californium-252 has a half-life of just over 2 years, so by the time our game starts, it'd be completely inert. Californium-251, however, has a half-life of 900 years and only a slightly higher critical mass. What we need to do is figure out how much fissile material we need to get an explosion that's twice as powerful as a hand grenade and under what conditions it would need to be in order to be turned critical. Thankfully, using our handy E equals MC squared, the mass is really easy, and it comes to 31 nanograms to make our mini nuke, given an explosive efficiency of 25%. How heavy is 31 nanograms? A little bit heavier than 1,400 sperm cells. Yes, if spunk were californium, you'd... You know what? No, I can't. I'll say fuck all day long, but no, I'm done. Anyway, this is an incredibly small amount of californium. The good news is this makes the material in the mini nuke an affordable 84 cents, or 420 Blazing dollars in Fallout 2077 money. Seriously, get your economy under control. So how do we make such an incredibly small amount of californium supercritical? Well, the answer is beyond me. Sorry, I spent 3 days trying to teach myself just enough nuclear engineering to answer this, and I couldn't. Turns out, nuclear engineering is fucking complicated. Probably for the best, though. I shouldn't teach hundreds of thousands of people how to build their own portable nukes. In either case, this is an engineering hurdle that I believe any atom-obsessed society can get around. So, there we have it. Mini nukes are possible? Yes, they actually are. Huh. That's great. I guess we can just wrap this up and I'll just head on to... Oh, shit. Fuck! Gaijin Gooba's actual fucking question. Damn it, the radiation, of course. Fuck, you'd be fucked. Oh, sure, you could build a mini nuke that has the force of a high-powered grenade, but you'd never want to. Remember those scientists from earlier? They died from what was an incredibly small supercritical accident. Setting off an entire high-energy payload of nuclear californium would be hundreds of times more disastrous. The instant it goes critical and the neutrons start flying, it'd be chaos. Anyone within a 200-foot radius would be bathed in well over 1,000 rads. And I'm not talking those sissy Fallout rads, real rads, where doses this large can kill you in minutes as high-energy gamma and X-rays slam into your organs, dislodging bits of your DNA and causing all of your cells to completely forget how to function. Best case scenario, you get riddled with like 7 cancers, but you're likely to die vomiting your stomach up on the spot. And that's not to mention the fact that burning up all the californium is impossible, and there'd be tons of trace radioactive metals in the air in a mini Fallout. Presuming you survive the initial blast of death and don't get cancer of the butt, you'd risk breathing in microscopic metals, which are known to bind in both your skeleton and other organs, where they can stay for years, irradiating surrounding tissue and causing them to definitely give you cancer of the butt. God damn it, mini nukes would be fucking terrifying. Fuck! Sincerely! Austin. P.S. A lot of you, and I mean a lot more than I expected to, liked my video where I examined the wartime tactics and politics of the Fallout New Vegas world and determined that the Legion would objectively lose to the NCR. I've read Sun Tzu's Art of War about 6 times throughout my life, but I discovered on Audible that there's a version narrated by Aidan Gillen. That's right, Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. It's like getting a lecture from an actual character in Game of Thrones. You can listen to it for free if you sign up for an Audible account today using the address audible.com/shoddy. But if that's not your thing, there's over 250,000 other titles they have on hand that you can choose from. Heck, If you want to get a head start on my next war video, I'm actually reading several books, one of which is On War by the 18th century general Karl von Clausewitz, which is also on Audible. Head over to audible.com/shoddy to get your first month free and pick out your audiobook. You'll get addicted, like me. Also, head on over to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/shoddy right now. I'm playing competitive Overwatch and very likely getting my ass kicked. So, you know, enjoy that. I stream every Monday starting at 10 a.m. Central Time. Look up GMT yourself. I'm not your mom. Whew, thank you everyone for watching my video on mini nukes. This was so much fun. This is getting out the door a little later than usual. I mean, not to you. If you're a Patreon person, then yes to you later, because I spent like Wednesday, because I was on vacation and I got back on Tuesday, and then I spent Wednesday, Thursday, and like half of Friday trying to teach myself enough nuclear engineering to get like under what densities you'd have to take californium to make it so it would work. But the problem is you need like temperature values for that specific element. You need the nuclear fission cross-section readings. You need to calculate reflectors and all sorts of things. And I realized what I would be doing is literally actually designing a real mini nuke. And like, maybe that's not the best thing to do ever, but also it's really complicated. There's other stuff too, like thermal dispersion and all that. And yeah, it was too many things to learn in 3 days, unfortunately. If I had a month, I probably could have done it, but I did it in 3 days, so oh well. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, you should subscribe to our channel if you're not yet, and you should follow me on Twitter at ARHorrigan, or follow Shoddycast at Shoddycast. I'd like to throw out a personal thank you from me to our Patreon supporters who make this show and every show we do on this channel possible. We try to bring in sponsorships to help float our amazing content, which takes forever to make, but Patreon is like the passionate core audience, and you guys are awesome. And if you want to become a Patreon supporter, you can head on over to patreon.com/shoddycast, and you can donate whatever you want. If you donate $3, you get early access to videos whenever we get them up. So yeah, that's it. Head on over to Twitch. Got that done. Okay, I'm gonna take a nap. Not really, I'm gonna go ahead and make this video. I want to take a nap. Pretend I'm napping. I really want a nap. But no. No one rests for the... Sorry.